Can we take a moment for prayers and meditation? Thank you. Honorable members, you may be seated. Honorable members, I would like first to establish the number of honorable members who might have connected on virtual before we can proceed. Honorable Premier Ndombela, are you here? Honorable MEC Kabati. I have received the leave of absence for Honorable MEC Goloi, Honorable MEC Mahasi,
Present, Speaker.
Honorable MEC Tsiu,
Present, Speaker.
Honorable MEC Mahwe, Honorable MEC Bulwane, Honorable MEC Mashinini,
Good morning, Speaker. Present.
Honorable MEC Ngangisa,
Morning, Speaker. Present.
Honorable MEC Mohale,
Good morning, Honorable Speaker. I'm present.
Honorable Chief Whip Chabalala,
Bayadandi afgebare Speaker, ek is hierso.
Honorable Deputy Chief Whip Mleleki.
Morning, Honorable Speaker. I'm present. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And good morning, everybody.
Honorable Deputy Speaker Mapena, Honorable Chair of Chairs
Molo Speaker, ngiyabulisa. Ndikhona nkokheli yam. Ngiyabulela.
Honorable Meko,
Good morning, Speaker. Present.
Honorable Jungle Singh, yes, yes.
I think our 3 members has put in a request for leave to your
Leave of
office.
absence, I did not receive it. Okay. Honorable Lituka,
just like to confirm Honorable Letuka, Honorable Jankelson, and Honorable Pittaway. All three of them has put in a request for absence of leave.
Yes.
You've received it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Nanyan,
Good morning, everyone. I'm present, Speaker.
Honorable Msimanga,
Morning, Speaker. I'm present, Speaker.
Honorable D. Smith,
Ngiyabonga, Speaker. Mina, I'm present.
thank you. Thank you, honorable members, and welcome. Honorable members, before we proceed with the business of the day, I want to make a ruling on the matter that was raised by Honorable Pittaway.
Speaker, request to record my presence.
Okay, honorable member.
Thank you.
At the last sitting of the House, convened on the 20th November 2020, Honorable Pittaway rose on a point of order to request the Speaker to ask Honorable Mohale to withdraw unconditionally the expression Honorable Mohale made by referring to Honorable Khagau as a rented mob. The point of order was made when the House was considering the notice of motion in terms of Rule 64 presented by Honorable Khagau. The Speaker, as she didn't hear the term alleged to have been made by Honorable Mohale, promised to peruse Hansard and would then make a ruling on the matter at the next sitting, which is today. I hereby wish to inform the House that transcript on the matter was requested, and I quote what Honorable Mohale said. I quote, "Honorable Speaker, I already raised a hand so I can respond here to the frivolous grandstanding motion by a Can I request the honorable members of virtual sitting to keep quiet? Mute your mics, please. It is correct, honorable members, that Honorable Mohale used the word rented mob during the discussions on this matter. But before I make and announce my ruling, I wish to request honorable members to obey the rules regulating order in the House and rules of debate, which amongst other things deal with the following. Rule 77 states that no member shall interrupt another member who is speaking except to call attention of the presiding officer to a point of order. Rule 96, no member shall use offensive or unbecoming language on point of order to call for attention of the presiding officer when noticing a breach of the rules of the House. Honorable members are further reminded to know that these rules are put in place to protect the rights of members, and when they are flouted, those rights can be trampled. It there puts the presiding officers in terms of 79 at the center to maintain order during deliberations. Honorable members, the ruling of this matter, after consulting with Hansard, I making the following ruling. That I confirm that Honorable Mohale used offensive language by calling Honorable Khachau a rented mob. The word rented mob is classified as an offensive language in terms of Rule 96, that the Honorable Mohale must unconditionally withdraw the word rented mob, that Honorable Mohale must refrain from speaking disrespectively to other member. Honorable Mohale, I am going to request you to withdraw the word you used when in the referred sitting. Honorable Mohale.
Honorable Speaker, I withdraw.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we are now going to proceed with the business of the day. Honorable Van Vuren.
Thank you, Speaker. Just before we proceed, can I just make you attend on an amendment on the minutes?
No, according to the rules, the minutes are, if there are any amendments or corrections, you take them to the office of the secretary for those corrections to be made, because the order paper does not provide for space to discuss the minutes of the previous sitting. So according to the rules, those matters will be referred to the Secretary of the Legislature.
I will do so. Thank you.
Honorable members, we proceed to statements by members of the Executive Council according to Rule 24. Honorable members, before we proceed to statements by members of the Executive Council and members of the Legislature, I wish to remind the House of Rule 34 of the Standing Rules and Orders that 9th edition 2019 shall apply. Accordingly, 20 minutes will be allocated for the whole duration of statements by members of the Executive Council to raise matters pertaining to their portfolios which need to be brought to the attention of the Legislature. A statement from a member of the Executive Council must not exceed 5 minutes. Following statements by members of the Executive Council, a member or members of each of the parties may comment on a statement by a member of the Executive Council for not more than 3 minutes per party, commencing with the official opposition and followed by other parties in the order of their size of membership in the House. Honorable members, we now proceed to statements by members of the Executive Council. Are there any statements? Honorable MEC2.
Thank you.
Honorable MEC2. Unmute your mic. Honorable MEC2, unmute your mic. Whilst Honorable MEC is struggling with the gadget, I will call Honorable Honorable MEC2, do you want to proceed?
Yes, I do, Speaker,
Please.
if you allow me. Okay. Speaker, I'm in the House. Speaker, I just want to make you aware. Speaker, I just want to make you aware that I'm in the House. Speaker, I just want to make you aware that I'm in the House.
Honorable MEC Tsu,
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I was just saying, for the past 3 days, our new cases that we recorded as the Free State have been going down. They are at below 100, which is something positive for us as the province. But we are concerned, for as long as we're still getting new cases, that is a concern to us. So I'm just urging the August House and also the honorable members and the communities that they must continue observing the non-pharmaceutical precautions, because that at this point in time is the only thing that is going to help us overcome the issue of this pandemic. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable MEC Kabati.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Speaker, in the last sitting, I made the House aware that as a country, we will be embarking on an awareness campaign on gender-based violence and femicide through an awareness program called 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, which coincides with the Disability Month, because November month is Disability Month, and on the 3rd of December is International Disability Day. Speaker, I'm just making the House aware that therefore, on the 22nd of this month, November, we had a pre-activity for an awareness of the 16 Days of Activism, which was a men's dialogue held in Botshabelo and was very successful. On the 25th, it was a national activity in the Eastern Cape. Yesterday, Speaker, we were in Herzogsville, where the private sector had donated 200 wheelchairs and other assistive devices. The program coincides with the 16 Days of Activism and notes that even people with disabilities, Speaker, are being challenged by being battered, being brutalized, being raped. Therefore, they are part of the victims of violence against women and children and people with disabilities. And we were marking that day, therefore. Speaker, on the 30th of this month, November, we will be in Botterville. We will be opening a shelter for people who are facing gender-based violence, working together with the police. The shelter will be helping those that are vulnerable. On the first, Speaker, MEC Munseng had already reported that it's World AIDS Day. On the second, Speaker, government will be visiting different maintenance court claims to observe and understand why are women struggling to get the claims for the children, because it's part of an abuse and putting children under vulnerability. On the 3rd, Speaker, which is an International Disability Day, all the departments will be holding virtual meetings with the staff within the department to understand the challenges that the people with disabilities within departments may be facing, how the workplace is. On the 8th, Speaker, we will be opening a shelter in Ficksburg, which is a shelter for safety for people with disabilities. On the 10th, as we'll be closing the month, Speaker, we'll be closing the month with opening the Botshabelo Rehab and Treatment Center. So those are the programs, Speaker, for the 16 Days of Activism. and members of the legislature are invited to join the activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable MEC Mashinini.
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker. I just want to make one request that as we are fast moving towards the festive season, some of the roads are still under construction, and I want to appeal to the motorists in the province and outside the province to be patient when they arrive at the areas where the roads are being constructed. It's very important. Sometimes it's always now a rainy season, and I want to appeal that the motorist needs to be patient. Secondly, Speaker, I want to appeal that during the festive season, any person leaving his or her house must make sure that at least the neighbor is informed about them being absent in that area. Thirdly, when you get into the malls, please make sure that you don't leave your car not closed. Make sure that your car is closed. Don't just press the mobilizer and think that your car is closed. And make sure that all doors are locked so that you can be able to go to the shops and areas where you want to go with your family. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. I don't see any other hands. I will now allow the members to comment on the statements made by honorable members of the executive. Okay, Honorable Majake.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and good morning to you and to all members of the legislature. Three things, Madam Speaker. The first one, indeed, we will want to support Arrive Alive. It is very important, and we will urge the public out there to respect the rules of the road. Secondly, we note the positive trend in terms of COVID-19. As the MEC says, we are now less 100 cases. It's a positive sign, but we'll urge our people to continue to wear their mask, wash their hands, and sanitize. Lastly, Speaker, we will ask that this GBV should not be a campaign of 16 days only. It should be continuous. It should be something that we do every time when we have an opportunity to do so. We should not wait for this period and then do it. It should be something that happens continuously because there are a lot of these cases. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I don't see any more hands. We'll now proceed to statements by members according to Rule 35. But before we proceed, honorable members, to statements by members, I wish to remind the House on the provisions of Rule 35, which stipulates that 20 minutes will be allocated for statements by members, and that statements by members shall not exceed 3 minutes per member, and matters to be raised must be of public importance. At the conclusion of statements by members, a member of Executive Council present may be given an opportunity to respond for not more than 2 minutes to any statement directed to that member of the Executive Council. A maximum of 5 members of the Executive Council may be given an opportunity to respond to members' statements. Are there any statements, honorable members? Honorable Makesini.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Ke kopa re le Free State Legislature re bonahale re supporta basebetsi ba SAPC. Hobane that institution ke institution e kgona ho fana ka information. The issue of the retrenchment, we need to speak against yona. We don't want to see any worker iluza mosebetsi. More so, batho ba ili bona ba kgona ho fana ka information in the whole province. So I call upon the members of the legislature, let's stand up and request the government to come with mechanism that will protect any worker in that institution.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Chachau.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, today marks the third day of the National COVID-19 and GBV-related deaths mourning period. Thank you to Premier Ellen Wendy for initiating this thought, and thank you to President Ramaphosa for adopting this thought and calling for such a needed period. The Democratic Alliance Free State Caucus, therefore, wishes to extend the reasons for mourning to include farm murders. As we take time to mourn and reflect on the lost relationships and lives of colleagues, loved ones, and fellow South Africans throughout this year, may we be reminded of our shared responsibility to continue fighting for a better and sustainable future for all, where all human beings can exist freely without any fear. Speaker, our country and the globe are clothed with fear. We are fearful of natural yet taken for granted activities such as inhaling, giving and receiving the warm embrace of a loved one, lest we get affected with the COVID-19 virus. Women and young girls continue to live in fear of being sexually violated by random and trusted male bodies who continue to use their toxic masculinity as a shameless scapegoat of their total lack of respect for female bodies. Our only sin was to be female. Our hearts, minds, and bodies are overflowing with blood, and our government is doing little to nothing to prevent this. We cannot even trust our political leaders, for they too are guilty of such. We need not look far. Here in the Free State, politicians are able to abuse us without even a slap on their wrists. We, however, celebrate, Speaker, the charges brought against Councillor Tiedi Moahi of Ward 1 Masilunyan. May the law take its course, and may we see more monsters jailed, and most importantly, Speaker, we pray for peace and healing for all victims and those related to victims. Honorable Speaker, this whole year has been showered with death storms all over, including farm murders. Murders of people whose only sin was to be born white or to be residents of farming communities. This is wrong, it is not fair, and it cannot continue to go undealt with. Yes, we're dressed in black and are embracing the mourning period, but for those affected, the mourning for COVID-19 related deaths, GBV murders, and farm murders is an everyday experience. And so surely this period cannot be it. Our communities are still without any or effective police patrolling. Boys are still raised to believe that women are their scroplaps, while politicians continue to instill racial fear and brew violence, while as a province, we continue to take the power of the COVID-19 virus for a ride. So, Honorable Speaker, may this period be a period of introspection that yields fruitful realizations. Surely we can do better. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Kleinans.
Thank you, Speaker. We were informed last week that the equitable share payments for Metsimaholo local municipality have been stopped by National Treasury in terms of Section 2162 of the Constitution. This municipality was placed under 1391B administration by MEC Nkangiza earlier this year. The Metsimaholo Council vehemently opposed the administration, which seems justified, as the management in the municipality has in fact deteriorated under provincial administration. The reason given by National Treasury was that the budget adopted by Council is unfunded. Despite several warnings to rectify the situation, this was not done, resulting in the stopping of funds. Speaker, it is clear that the provincial administrators could themselves not draw up a credible and realistic budget, which is contrary to regulations and guidelines. In Malutiapufung, which the MEC unilaterally took out of joint national provincial administration on the 1st of June, is totally collapsed and has had its bank accounts, vehicles, computers and furniture attached due to non-payment of creditors. We have also established that national departments were not informed of the lifting of the administration and that grant funding has been paid into a municipal bank account, but contractors cannot be paid because the account is frozen. This is the municipality which the MEC previously declared as having tremendously improved. There are other instances, Speaker. This political interference in municipalities by the MEC is outrageous, and instead of bringing about an improvement in services, is making things far worse. The MEC is clearly using the powers afforded him in Section 139 of the Constitution as a political tool to play factional games in municipalities. Often these games include deploying cadres there with the apparent purpose of raiding the fiscus of those municipalities. Speaker, it is clear that the ANC cannot govern and must be removed by residents who want a competent government and who want to live a dignified life. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Majake.
Thank you very much once more, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's a common cause now, and it is also in the public domain. It is in the public discourse that the Free State provincial government has prided itself by sending students abroad, Russia, China, Portugal, and everywhere else. It is said, Madam Speaker, that we had to lead those students, including those who are already in the country now, to the Premier's office this past Wednesday, on the basis that they are struggling in terms of the support which was supposed to be given to them. We are once more appealing to the Premier's office to attend to those issues, as those issues directly affect those students, issues around your stipend or your allowance, accommodation, and all of that. We would want the Premier's office to attend to those issues so that next year when the academic year starts, we don't experience the problems that we have experienced this year and the previous year. On the same breath, I must, on a positive note, acknowledge that after that march of Wednesday, at least the students who were in Portugal have just confirmed that they have been paid their accommodation. So the question becomes, should we always march so that things happen? Should we always put pressure on people to do their job? It is not a good thing, Honorable Speaker. I think the Office of the Premier can do better, and we are requesting it to do better. We are requesting it to minimize the tension that is already there and prepare thoroughly for 2021 academic year. We will not want to start it in a manner that we have finished it this year in terms of the mass action and all of that. But anyway, if we are invited to do that, we will accept the invitation wholeheartedly, and we will sit there with the Premier in his office, in her office there, so that the students are assisted. I mean, it has been pride of this Free State government, provincial government, taking students abroad. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Any response by members of the Executive Council? Honorable MEC Brown.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My response, Honorable Speaker, is to Honorable Khachau. Yes, Honorable Speaker, the ANC-led government is in solidarity with our President Cyril Ramaphosa to wear black in the extension of mourning of those who passed away during COVID-19 and the plight to fight gender-based violence. But as we grandstand here, Honorable Speaker, I would like to remind Honorable Khachau, that a DA councillor in the Free State was arrested for allegedly assaulting a police officer on the 5th of November 2020. And that was in Motaka municipality. And Honorable Speaker, if we're really talking gender-based violence, the leadership of the DA has to represent itself in ensuring that there's no violence man on man. And yet the authorities, to abuse the authorities in the way that you assault a police officer shows a certain type of leadership. So I'd just like us to respond to say that as we deal with gender-based violence, as leadership, let us represent ourselves at home and outside in the work that we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable MEC Qabat. Honorable MEC.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, in agreeing with Honorable Brown, it is a pity, Speaker, for Honorable Member Khachau, who is a woman, to come and play politics and trivialize such an important matter which carries the pain of the nation. I'm saying she is trivializing gender-based violence and femicide program, Speaker, and charading here with a speech, whilst I've never seen her on the ground when we are having programs that are fighting gender-based violence. I'm saying this, Speaker, because she insinuates that nothing is being done.
Honorable MEC, can you please pause? Is that a point of order, Honorable Kleinans?
Speaker, it is. I just want to ask whether Honorable Kabati is inferring that a woman cannot speak out in politics.
That is not a point of order, Honorable Kleinans. Proceed, Honorable MEC.
Speaker, I am saying this because the statement by Honorable Member Khachau saying the government is not doing anything is an insult to the police, men and women who are working day and night to fight gender-based violence and making arrests of the perpetrators. It's an insult. It's an insult to the social workers, Speaker, who are working very hard to heal the nation and also driving campaigns of awareness to ensure that we win over gender-based violence. It is an insult to the initiatives that were done by the President, because recently the President has appointed extra social workers to fight gender-based violence, and out of that allocation, the Free State got 16 of them. It is an insult, Speaker, to the initiative that there be special courts that deal with gender-based violence matters. It's an insult to that whole work. I have never, ever, ever seen any member of the DA being part of us when we are on ground and doing this work. Theirs is to be reduced to speaking here in the House, playing at the gallery, and not doing anything.
Thank you,
it's
Honorable.
an insult to the work that is being done in this country.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable MEC Ngangisa.
Thank you, Speaker, and thanks for the opportunity. Speaker, Honorable Member Kleinans is accusing me of abusing my power by Section 139. But the Section 139 is invoked as per the Constitution of the country, looking on three elements and not exclusively to the governance of municipalities, to the financial position of the municipality, and the service delivery. Those elements inform invocation of Section 139. And in the municipality, she's always been speaking about Maluti Apofung. It's the first time I hear speaking about another municipality. She always speaks about Maluti Apofung. But the situation there, we have explained every time and again what prevailed in the past in terms of political instability, infighting, conflicts between management, councillors, to an extent that we went to by-elections. And immediately thereafter, political stability has been restored and governance has been restored. We have explained that in terms of the financial position of the municipality, after employment of the CFO, MM, and now the technical director, the municipality has found footing also in the implementation of the financial recovery plan. So the municipality to this far has been able to change. They were not billing, they are now billing. The only thing that is the devil in the municipality is their bill to ESCOM, which of course ESCOM has attached their account, which frustrated everything for a period of 4 months. They could not pay bills, they could not pay workers, it was difficult. They could not even pay third parties. So that was the problem. They could not even pay the ESCOM because they could not transact on anything. And that issue has been resolved by the Deputy President as we speak. So I think the accusation is misplaced and ill-informed.
Your time
And
is up. Thank you, Honorable Member. You respond for 2 minutes and your 2 minutes is up. Honorable members, thank you. We move to questions for oral reply. And honorable members, I have indicated at the beginning that I have received a leave for absence for Honorable MEC Koloi. I will allow the Secretary to read question 1.
Honorable Kleinhans, as Honorable MEC responsible for cooperative governance and traditional affairs. Honorable Nangis, the following question. In terms of your response dated 11 June 2020 to question 102 on the internal question paper, please provide a copy of the appointment letter from the Office of the Deputy President appointing Mr. Blake Lefatola to his office. 1. On what date was Mr. Lefatola informed of his appointment? 2. Why has the financial due diligence report on Maluti Apofung Water completed in July 2019 not yet been tabled in the Maluti Apofung Council? 3. Please provide a list of stakeholders who must still be consulted on the reviewed organogram of Maluti Apofung Municipality. 4. Please provide a copy of 1A, the agenda, B, the minutes of the council meeting of 26 March 2020.
Honorable MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honorable MEC Nxangisa may respond.
Thank you, Speaker. We have also responded to this question, which I'm told the Secretariat has received this morning a reply. However, with regard to the contract of Mr. Lefatola, it is also part of the documents we have sent as part of our reply. With regard as to why is the financial due diligence report on Maluti Apofung water completion, it is also a part of the report because you would remember that upon completion of the municipality was faced with a situation where 16 councillors has been fired and council was not able to sit due to quorum following the election of an appointment of new councillors into the MEP council. earlier this year, the challenge was deepened by the global pandemic COVID-19, and no council meeting were permitted to sit until level 3 of the lockdown. On the question of the please provide a list of stakeholders who must still be consulted on the review, organogram of MEP, municipality trade union existed MEP, consultation with provincial treasury, has to oversee that the structures does not exceed 35% of the budget of the municipality. Consultation with COCTA as the department has to check the structures is incoherent with the position of the municipality, and no additional positions will be created outside the given category of the municipality. With regard the copies that we are required to provide of the minutes of council, they are attached to our reply to the honorable member. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Honorable Kleinhans, any follow-up on the question?
Speaker, yes, and thank you to the MEC. However, this tendency of replying 3 minutes before the sitting is really not acceptable. This question shouldn't even have been here today, if only the MEC
Honorable Kleinhans, that part is for me and the secretary. Respond on the content of the question, on the response. Leave other administration issues, we'll deal with them.
Thank you, Speaker. I can't leave it because it's my question and I was not informed of the answer. However, I would like to thank the MEC for his response, but when I get back to the office, I'll have to check on what he's actually provided and what he said, and if that is in actual fact true. The issue of the stakeholders, this is an organogram story has been coming for about 2 years now. So stories of COVID and what is actually irrelevant. And the same with the due diligence report was completed in July 2019. That's now 18 months ago. So the council has been sitting. There's absolutely no reason why that thing can't be tabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable MEC.
Speaker, thank you. I did not get a follow-up question. Thank you very much.
Honorable MEC, Honorable Kleinhans was, although part of your responses, there are matters that she would go back and check at the office, but there are others that she raised, not unless she's not expecting you to respond now, like the issues of the council sitting and the COVID-19. Not unless you are saying, Honorable Kleinhans, you'll revert back to the response, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you, Speaker. Yes, I will first have to see what the MEC has provided.
Okay.
If necessary, I will then file additional questions or communicate with the MEC. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, all the other questions that follow are the questions that are directed to Megoloi, and the questions will be deferred to the next sitting. As I indicated earlier, that I've received a leave of absence for the Honorable MEC, so we will deal with that in the next sitting. Honorable members, we now proceed to money bills according to Rule 164 to 168 of our standing rules and orders. I'm going to request the two MECs whose hands are up on the virtual platform, because when I see them, I would think that maybe they want to speak. can I request that you lower your hands, honorable members? Thank you. We proceed to motions. The secretary shall read the motion.
That leave be granted for the tabling of the Adjustment Appropriation Bill number 6 of 2020.
The Honorable MEC for Finance, Honorable MEC Brown.
Honorable Speaker, I move.
Any discussion?
None. None. None.
Any objection?
None.
None.
Thank you. Leave granted. The Honorable MEC may table the Adjustment Appropriation Bill. The Secretary shall read the bill for the first time.
The Adjustment Appropriation Bill number 6 of 2020.
Thank you. The Honorable MEC may present an introductory speech on the bill.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Ms. Anele Sifuba, Honorable Premier of the Free State Province, Ms. Seforo Ntumbela, members of the Executive Council, members of the Free State Provincial Legislature, Executive Mayors, Councillors, Director General of the Province, Heads of Departments, of respective departments, Chief Executive Officers and leaders of our public and private institutions, municipal managers, special guests, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, the community at large, good morning, dumelang, goeiemorgen, molweni, sanbonan. Madam Speaker, warm greetings and my sincere gratitude for allowing me to present the 2021 adjustment budget. I must acknowledge that it was the toughest budget to put together, more that it is prepared in the middle of a pandemic, the declining economic growth, and the very uncertain future outlook. Honorable Speaker, we are a resilient nation. We are a nation that has gone through devastating circumstances, and at the end we prevail. I believe that we will overcome the current challenges besetting us. It is quite evident that the path and speed of economic recovery will depend on many different factors, and we must continue to enhance and equally develop clear economic recovery strategies to guide the government's actions in a number of areas that would benefit its citizenry. Honorable Speaker, we are Africa, and Africa is me. We continue to advise that as leaders, we must provide decisive solutions for the African child, for the South African home, and for the Free State community. As the ANC-led government, we will guide the work of our government, working with social partners to generate higher rates of economic growth, investment, and job creation in alignment with the election manifesto and our social compact. Our aim is to radically transform our society to make it a truly non-racial, non-sexist, and economically inclusive society. Hence, it is of critical importance for us to take a more integrated approach to our development in lieu of building a sustainable Free State economy. And it is of utmost importance that we ensure maximum participation in Free State businesses in our economy.
Honorable members on the virtual platform, could you please mute your mics? Honorable members, please mute your mics. Proceed, Honorable MEC.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I repeat, it is of utmost importance that we ensure maximum participation of Free State businesses in the economy and circulation of money within the province before it makes its way out of our borders. It is thus important for all of us to make our economy thrive under extreme difficult circumstances. Let us reimagine our economy during and out of the pandemic. Let's brave ourselves for this tough economic times ahead of us and soldier on. On the national economic performance and outlook, Honourable Speaker, this year's adjustment budget underlines the mid-year revenue and expenditure framework of the province in context of a fragile macroeconomic environment and outlook. The global, national and provincial economies have deteriorated further since the outbreak of COVID-19. The International Monetary Fund projects that the global economy will shrink by 4.9% in 2020, while the South African economy is forecasted to contract by 7.8% in the latest projections by National Treasury. Honourable members, it is prudent to allude to this House that there was already pre-existing challenges that contributed to low economic growth in South Africa, even before the outbreak of COVID-19. Inter alia, the following: low business confidence, unreliable electricity supply, high unemployment rate, a ballooning gross debt level, and a growing budget deficit due to reduced revenues. Consequently, the national economy only grew by 0.2% in 2019. The outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in March 2020 therefore found an already vulnerable South African economy and deepened the economic crisis. In order to reignite and grow this economy, the President of the Republic, Ndate Cyril Ramaphosa, outlined the country's economic reconstruction and recovery plan in his address to the joint sitting of Parliament. According to our President, the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan has 3 phases. 1, engage and preserve, which means it includes a comprehensive health response to save lives and curb the spread of the pandemic. 2, recovery and reform. That includes interventions to restore this economy while controlling the health risks. And lastly, 3, reconstruct and transform, which entails building a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive economy. In terms of the plan, the following priority interventions will be made: aggressive infrastructure investment, employment-orientated strategic localization, re-industrialization, and export promotion, energy security, support for tourism recovery and growth, gender equality and economic inclusion of women and youth, green economy interventions, mass public employment initiatives, strengthening food security, and macroeconomic interventions. Now, Honourable Speaker, it goes without saying that the Free State Province will support this plan as we rebuild our country and economy after the devastation of COVID-19. We therefore heed the call by the President to work together to build a new economy. On the province, Honourable Speaker, in terms of its economic performance and outlook, it is no surprise that the economy of the Free State is also projected to plunge in 2020. The province has not been immune to the effects of COVID-19. The provincial economy is to project to contract sharply by 8.3% in 2020, from a negative 0.3% in 2019, and to moderately rise to 2.6% in 2021. It is only the agricultural sector that is projected to grow positively in the current year, predominantly due to the fact that this sector was not directly affected by the lockdown measures. The provincial economy recorded 4 recessions, Honourable Speaker, in the past 10 years, averaging just 1.2% growth. Honourable Speaker, it is concerning that the provincial economy is projected to decline by an average of 0.9% over the next 5 years. These bleak forecasts will make it even more difficult for government to tackle the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and equality. The steep economic decline will further impact negatively on government's ability to generate revenues, thus adversely affecting service delivery and impose constraints of the broader fiscal framework. Honourable Speaker and esteemed members of this House, ladies and gentlemen, the impact of the weak economy is sadly reflected in the deteriorated labour market outcomes. It is estimated that 33,000 jobs have been lost in the province between April and September this year. This province unemployment rate increased to 35.5% in the third quarter of 2020 compared to 34.5% in the same quarter in 2019. Unemployment remains the highest amongst the youth, which is ages between 15 and 34, at 53.7% in this province. The provincial government has undertaken to conduct a study on the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the provincial economy in an effort to rebuild and promote an inclusive economy. The study will outline detailed, practical, and implementable strategies to revive the Free State provincial economy. In addition to this, through Destia MEC Mohale, the province is in a process of developing a value chain economic recovery approach. The impact of value chains is expected to bear long-term benefits by increasing sustainably for enterprises participating in those value chains, particularly local SMMEs and enterprises owned by previously disadvantaged individuals, highlighting women, youth, people with disabilities. Honourable Speaker, the Free State Provincial Government will continue to implement projects and programs that are intended to stimulate the provincial economy, especially infrastructure development over the 2021 MTF. The province is confident that the restructuring of several infrastructure development projects will create jobs and increase the province's capacity to generate own revenue. The presidential employment intervention, which is welcomed, and the existing ones will be scaled up, and this will incalculably address provincial high unemployment rates. The Department of Trade and Industry will continue to fund the rehabilitation of Botshabelo Industrial Parks and the Putadechaba Industrial Park. Honourable Speaker, on audit outcomes, let me begin and start by sending our condolences to the family of the late AG, Kimi Makwetu, who passed away on the 11th of November 2020. We also welcome the new appointment of the female AGSA, Matsekeni Maluleki, who has been in the environment for many years. Congratulations, we will support you, Mme, and you and your team. We also welcome the provincial appointment of the new SIU head in the province, also a woman, Honourable Speaker, Masi Mangele Sabalala. Malibongwe, Igamalama Kosikasi. Congratulations. Honourable Speaker, the submission of the 1920 annual financial statements for the departments and the public entities were extended by the Minister of Finance on the 31st of May 2020 to the 31st of July 2020. Equally, the finalization of several of the 2019-20 Public Finance Management Act regulatory audits, which have been delayed as a result of the impact of COVID-19 on the departments, entities, and Auditor General South Africa. Honourable Speaker, I believe this House will appreciate and allow me not to comment on the 1920 PFMA audit outcomes until the Office of the AGSA, in conjunction with my department, has tabled them before the relevant committee of the Provincial Legislature, which has not been made public as yet. However, I can commit up front to this august House that I will continue to play my oversight role to ensure that the anticipated improvement is realized. Honourable Speaker, I'm very excited about the draft report received and would like to thank the teams who have really put in detailed and concerted effort to change the audit landscape of this province. I would further like to commend accounting officers and the financial teams during the completion of the audit of the procurement of PPEs in the province during the short period of the pandemic. We have supported more than 300 Free State-based companies in our compliance framework of procurement, and the accounting officers have worked through all audit processes on all companies together with the AGSA, various authorities and Chapter 9 institutions in adherence to compliance matters during a very, very short period. I would also like to acknowledge and say well done to all HODs for exercising detail in picking up very few irregularities during the process. We shall strengthen our controls along this process. The reports have been concluded by AGSA. I'd like to pronounce that to the House. We are equally satisfied with the draft presented to the Executive Council, which will also be tabled shortly. On provincial expenditure, Honourable Speaker, allow me to focus on our provincial mid-year performance of revenue and expenditure. Our initial provincial fiscal framework, as tabled on the 7th of July 2020, amounted to 39.055 billion. From this amount, 30.017 billion related to provincial equitable share, while 7.790 billion and 1.248 billion related to conditional grants and provincial revenue, respectively. We allocated the 39.055 billion to all provincial departments and the provincial legislature to provide for provincial and national priorities, including health and education, which accounted for 72% of the total fiscal envelope. The COVID-19 pandemic and national lockdown negatively affected provincial spending, and by the end of October of this current financial year, the province spent 21.261 billion, which translates to 54.4% of our total fiscal purse. Although the province has spent 54.4%, our intention is to continue to prudently expedite expenditure on areas where under-expenditure manifests, particularly on conditional grants with a view to deliver much-needed public services. Honourable Speaker, allow me to reiterate that we will continue to work with all departments to ensure that all the allocated funds are spent as planned within the current financial year. We are also happy to pronounce that we have been very successful in strengthening our revenue generation capacity through investment of funds. This approach will continue to ensure that the liquidity of the province is enhanced. On provincial owned revenue, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Premier, during the tabling of the revised budget in July, we discussed the possibility of reduction of owned revenue estimates for the province to the tune of 305 million. The decrease of provincial owned revenue budget, although it is below what we anticipated earlier due to the opening of the economy and more efforts put by department to collect owned revenue. Provincial owned revenue adjustment budget is reduced from 1.248 billion to 1.126 billion, which is an adjustment of 122.8 million or 9.8% of the 2020-21 financial year. This was prompted mainly by the effects of the pandemic, whereby various government services were partially not operating due to national lockdown rules and regulations. Honourable Speaker, I must congratulate our provincial departments and entities given the determination and courage that they have demonstrated with regards to the stimulation of provincial owned revenue during these trying times. Honourable Speaker, Premier, it is imperative to outline to this august House that our provincial owned revenue plays a pivotal role with regard to additional funding towards provincial owned priorities. Thus far, the current performance on provincial revenue, as at the end of October 2020, amounts to 627.4 million, which represents a collection of 50.3%. Honourable Speaker, I must also indicate to the House that coupled with the challenges with regard to own revenue collection, our economy is not performing as expected. And this has adverse impact on revenue collection, both at a local and a provincial and national level. The Executive Council has appointed a team of MECs and heads of department that will specifically focus on revenue enhancement initiatives. On cost containment initiatives, Honourable Speaker and members of this august House, around this time last year I stood before you and pronounced that fiscal consolidation is key as part of the administration's strategy. I pleaded with my colleagues in the executive that we must continue to look for efficiency savings in the face of the continuous budget cuts. I further implored that every cent saved through cost-cutting initiatives must be redirected towards core service delivery areas in the province. Little did I know that at that stage and along the way, COVID-19 pandemic would affect us as a country. Honourable Speaker, we soon realized that the funding of COVID-19 would be realized through a dramatic, massive shift in government resources. Chief amongst these shifts were in the form of scaling down non-core items in the budget. In collaboration with all departments, we identified funds from non-core items in the budget, such as catering, entertainment, venues and facilities, travelling, flights and accommodation, and as a result, we realized a reduction of 67% or 48.9 million from those non-core items. These are funds that were meant for first and second quarters of the financial year. However, due to the lockdown regulations, the funds are regarded as savings as we had to re-engineer the way we work. Honourable Speaker, the journey of good financial governance is a continuous one. Hence, it is our intention to continue to further explore new measures, which would include exploring further cost containment measures where possible and strengthen compliance with existing cost containment measures in the province. In short, cost-cutting measures will remain in place. On infrastructure investment, Honourable Speaker, the Minister of Finance in his adjustment budget speech alluded to the fact that if we put all our efforts into implementing the economic reconstruction and recovery plan, we can accelerate growth to 3% or more. He further indicated that infrastructure investment is at the centre of this plan, as infrastructure development is recognised worldwide as a key long-term driver for economic growth. While national government has, in support of the economic recovery plan, made great strides in developing alternative funding models for infrastructure investment for all levels of government, at provincial level we need to be resourceful in optimizing the limited resources for infrastructure investment at our disposal. We need to remind ourselves of the massive maintenance backlogs accumulated through the years due to underfunding of maintenance of government infrastructure, rendering the government infrastructure portfolio in a dilapidated state. This situation is impacting negatively on service delivery across all sectors. At the same time, we are aware of the epidemic of unemployment as a result of minuscule economic growth since 2009, exacerbated by COVID-19 lockdown. Honourable Speaker, global research into enablers of economic growth, developing countries provide compelling evidence that establishing sustainable SMMEs is a key driver of economic growth through sustainable job creation and stimulation of local economies. In the interest of continued quality service delivery to the Free State populace, and in support of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, the provincial government will have to seriously explore redirecting infrastructure investment away from new, upgrade and additions to existing infrastructure, to capital and current maintenance of existing infrastructure portfolio. In the adjusted provincial budget we tabled during the speech, approximately 34.5% of the provincial infrastructure budget is allocated to capital and current maintenance combined. Reprioritization of the infrastructure investment to substantively fund capital and current maintenance projects due to the extensive footprint of the provincial infrastructure portfolio. The establishment of sustainable emerging local contractors, coupled with utilizing Free State-based skills and talent, and the support to the contractor development program, the creation of sustainable jobs and local economic growth could be facilitated on an unprecedented scale. On irregular expenditure, Honourable Speaker, the intervention project initiated by Provincial Treasury for investigation of irregular expenditure incurred in previous financial years to ensure that the province is reducing its accumulated irregular expenditure continues until March 2021. The service provider contract expires then. 673 additional cases of irregular expenditure from various Free State departments to the value of 1.5 billion were handed over for investigation. 622 of those cases to the value of 1.3 billion were finalized and reports issued to the HODs of relevant departments to action investigation outcomes. On municipalities, Honourable Speaker, it's important to note that local government is the crucible in which the complex process of development, governance, transformation of life and living conditions take place on a daily basis. This is the space in which our children grow to adulthood, where our workers find sustenance and rest, where our aged live out the rest of their lives. It is a place where our talents are shaped and our institutions operate and our well-being is determined. In this term, we want to give attention to municipal budgets and financial management. Honourable Speaker, you would agree with me that this is an important focal point if we want municipalities to achieve a stable financial situation. It is imperative that municipal councils must ensure as oversight bodies that credible and funded budgets are approved. The good news is that the Minister of Finance announced in the supplementary budget that 20 billion was allocated to local government. Honourable Speaker, another good news is that the Free State municipalities will receive 5.137 billion in 2021 municipal financial year, including an amount of 668 million specifically for COVID-19. On the downside, however, most of our municipalities are struggling with significant creditors and debtors balances. The Deputy President has a task team to deal specifically with this challenge. We take cognizance of the fact that the Free State province has made remarkable progress in delivering water, electricity, sanitation and refuse removal at municipal level. However, there are areas in which service delivery is failing, our governance system is not properly functioning, and in certain instances, the plight of our masses for effective service delivery has not yet been met. Our vision of building a capable and development state is a priority. COCTA has done a review of South Africa's municipalities, which has revealed that we still have a journey to reach the ideal municipality we envisage. This requires to do things a lot differently if we want solutions to our common challenges. Therefore, Back to Basics program and the district development model are expected to provide this with much needed impetus. Changing strategic orientation is not easy, and it requires bold leadership and political will. We need to improve the political management of our municipalities and be responsive to the needs and aspirations of our people. Our encouragement to all municipalities to become positively functional centers of good governance, sound financial management and effective service delivery, with the ongoing support by national provincial treasuries and national COCTA, SALGA, and the dedication of my colleague in cooperative governance and traditional affairs, MEC Ngangisa, as well as the committed municipal and community leaders, there is no reason why we cannot change the municipal landscape to deliver the services our people deserve. Honourable Speaker, coming to the numbers, 2021 adjustment budget, and it's going to be very short from here. I must concede that the adjustment budget was expected to be a very difficult one. Madam Speaker, we have in-year fiscal reforms that impact on the current financial year budget as well as the provincial budget pressures that must be addressed. Honourable Speaker, we have requested departments and public entities to indicate their respective in-year and MTF budget pressures in line with PFMA prescripts that regulates the adjustment budget process. In absence of additional funds and provincial reserves, we had to prioritize budget pressures that could be catered through this adjustment budget process. Madam Speaker, during the tabling of the 2020 budget of the Minister of Finance, he announced the reduction of 160 billion on equitable share as part of managing the wage bill going forward. The implementation of these reductions are included in the 2021 adjustment budget tabled on the 28th of October 2020 by the Minister. The province accounts for 25.3 billion in 2021, 36.7 billion and 25.1 billion in the provinces, not Free State province. The provinces account for 25.3 billion in 2021, 36.7 billion and 45.1 billion in 2021-22 and 22-23 respectively. The remainder of the 160 billion is accounted by national departments. I need to reiterate to the House that the 25.3 billion reduction has implications for our current budget and therefore forms part of the provincial adjustment budgets. The implication for the Free State province in this regard is a reduction of 1.522 billion in the 2021 financial year. In 2021-22, it is 2.032 billion and 2.496 billion in the 22-23 year. These funds, Madam Speaker, were meant for payment of annual salary adjustments. This year, we have reviewed critical posts As you would know, there are 5 months left to this financial year, and thus we have reviewed critical posts and placed a moratorium on non-critical posts to achieve these savings for the next couple of months until the financial year closes. Furthermore, the possible appointments that were to be made and that are currently in the system were analyzed when they would be appointed so that we could calculate in detail and analyze the exact salary expenditure for the 3 months since the appointment or since the possible appointment. So we were able to do and deal with processes as such that we were methodical in the way we analyzed the savings to accumulate the 1.522 billion. This is to ensure that no positions in the province and no employee would be impacted negatively. In addition to the above reduction, the provincial budget will be cut by another 11.791 billion over the medium-term expenditure framework. And this cut relates to provincial equitable share, formula updates, and further reductions on compensation of employees to support fiscal consolidation and the macroeconomic stance. Honourable Speaker, these are tough times and calls for stringent measures in how we manage our public resources. The irony, Madam Speaker, is that our resources are finite as compared to the infinite needs of our people in this province. The test for us is how do we respond to this dilemma? There is evidently a need for us to make hard choices, choices that will deliver tangible results and services to our people. Honourable Speaker, I'm, however, extremely delighted to mention that the province will receive more than R500 million to address some of the pressing matters in the province. Allow me to provide details of these additional allocations. 27.853 million will be added to the equitable share of social development for the extension of the food relief program. 38.880 million is added to the early childhood development grant to top up salaries and early childhood development facilities and for employment risk support in registered and unregistered facilities. 74.491 million is added to the provincial roads maintenance grant for the creation of job opportunities through road maintenance projects. 9.921 million is added to statutory human resources training and development grant for the appointment of enrolled nurses, assistant auxiliary nurses, and other. 411.622 million from the Presidential Employment Intervention Fund is allocated to the Department of Education for the appointment of assistant teachers, funding of school governing bodies, posts that were affected by salary cuts due to the impact of COVID-19, and non-payment of school fees at fee-paying schools and government-subsidized independent schools. Honourable Speaker, this over 500 million funding has to be spent before this end of the financial year. The total amount, Honourable Speaker, of 12.744 million has been added to the community outreach program component, which is part of the HIV, TB, malaria, and community outreach grant. These are no new funds to the province. They have been reprioritized from other components of the main grant. The absence of additional funds and reserves for the province, this necessitated reprioritization of the current provincial baseline to fund the identified key pressures. Madam Speaker, we have reprioritized 107.454 million from the baselines of our provincial departments. These funds mainly emanate from infrastructure enhancement allocations, goods and services of the various departments. I must also mention that we've tried to protect health and education in this regard. In terms of the adjusted allocations, the internal prioritization, Honourable Speaker, it's our dream to build a fiscal sustainability for the province that depends on the choices that we make today. The choices that direct the finite public resources towards production and tangible services for our people, choices that creates employment opportunities, choices that improves the well-being of the people of the province. Madam Speaker, our adjusted provincial fiscal purse amounts to 38.190 billion and constitutes as following. 28.934 billion relates to equitable share, 8.131 billion to conditional grants, and 1.125 billion to provincial own revenue. Conditional grants include rollovers of 227 million, while revenue includes 53.260 million from the Housing Development Agency. Honourable Speaker, in essence, there is no new discretionary money allocated to the province. Instead, there is a net decline of 865.3 million on our provincial fiscus. We had to dig deeper this year to our provincial baselines to identify savings that could be reprioritized towards pressing priorities. Honourable Speaker, we consulted all the affected departments individually through the Forum of Heads of Departments and the proposals that were finally approved by the Executive Council. Through this exercise, we identified an amount of 107.4 million that could be redirected towards in-year budget pressures. Additional to outward reprioritization budgets, departments were urged to implement internal reprioritization to address other pressing in-year pressures. So on the reallocation of reprioritized funds, Honourable Speaker, as mentioned earlier on, the needs are bigger than the available funds, and accordingly we had to prioritize the pressures that could be funded in this adjustment budget. An amount of 10 million is allocated to public works and infrastructure for the procurement of land for the Batlokwa Ba Mogalong traditional community as pronounced by the Honourable Premier Masisi Ntombela and my colleague MEC Ngangisa in the 2021 State of the Province Address and the 2021 Budget Vote speech respectively. 33.4 million will be received by the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure to partially address the in-year budget pressures on municipal services. Our provincial bursary program remains key in ensuring that deserving students in the province receive access to tertiary education. We therefore decided to allocate an additional 34 million to address provincial commitments on this program. Honourable Speaker, the Department of Social Development is allocated 30 million to address the ENGO court judgment. We have further shifted an amount of 35 million from the Department of Health to the Provincial Treasury. These funds, Madam Speaker, relate to the PPEs that were procured on the latter on behalf of Department of Health. On conditional grants and rollovers, Honourable Speaker, Honourable Members, as indicated earlier, the province received rollovers of 227 million to be spent in the current financial year. I will now briefly give you the details. Health will receive 88.1 million, which relates to commitments funded by Health Facility Revitalization Grant. 115.6 million for education and relates to the following conditional grants. 109.203 million for education infrastructure grant, 1.017 million for HIV and AIDS grant, 2.578 million for learners with profound intellectual disabilities grant, 1.519 million for maths, science and technology grant, and 1.326 million for National Schools Nutrition Program grant. 18.019 million is allocated towards the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program grant, whilst 1.929 million goes to Ilima Letsema Projects grant. 3.249 million is rolled over to the current financial year for the Community Library Services grant in sports, arts, culture and recreation. Honourable Speaker, these are rolled over funds that must be expended in the current financial year to avoid further loss of funds, and we therefore urge all departments that have received these rollovers to expedite spending and ensure that value for money is spent in this regard. On the medium-term expenditure framework, Honourable Speaker, it is going to be more challenging fiscally. The economy is projected to contract by 7.8% in 2020 and rebound to 3.3% in 2021. The GDP growth is expected to average 2.1% over the medium-term expenditure framework ahead. Added to the worrying economic outlook, the impact of COVID-19 has caused havoc for public finances and its impact expected to remain over the years ahead. These gloomy projections have dire impact on our provincial medium-term fiscal framework. Based on the unfavorable economic outlook, Honourable Speaker, and the need to stabilize our debt to GDP ratio as a country and the fiscal deficit, fiscal consolidation stance will thus continue over the medium-term expenditure framework period. Honourable Speaker, the continuation of the said macroeconomic stance is evident by declining allocations to provinces. The medium-term expenditure framework period ahead, Free State's budget will be reduced once again to reiterate, by 11.791 billion, and these reductions include budget costs on compensation of employees and aimed in supporting fiscal consolidation. Over the next 5 years, national government wishes and plans to stabilize debt to GDP around 95%. And this plan includes realigning composition of spending from consumption towards capital investment. This, Madam Speaker, is in support of the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan by our President Ramaphosa. Equally, we must align our own provincial plans. And I'm calling upon all departments, upon local governments, to assist us towards achieving these noble goals of the said plan. There is an increase to firmly do more with less resources at our disposal, a need to be fiscally disciplined, and a need to be thoroughly evaluating performance of our respective programs and redirect resources to key initiatives in the province. The road ahead is going to be fiscally difficult. I believe working together and anchored by one vision in our province, we will rise above these challenges. Honourable members, for the medium term ahead, the provincial government proposes to spend an aggregate of 115.555 billion. This budget will continue to fund projects and programs that are intended to stimulate the provincial economy, especially infrastructure. The province will further invest funds towards learning and culture, health and social development related programs. In conclusion, Honourable Speaker, Honourable esteemed members of the House, ladies and gentlemen at large, I would like to extend my word of gratitude to our Honourable Premier Masifora Ntombela for her sterling work in directing us as the Executive Committee. My sincere gratitude goes to my esteemed Provincial Executive Council colleagues for their support in putting together this midterm budget in very, very trying times. We had robust and tearful discussions in putting together this budget, but our focus in all these discussions and decisions taken was to put the people of our province first. I thank them very much for that. I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to the members of the Provincial Legislature and members of the Finance and Portfolio Committee for their support, continuous engagement, and their demand for accountability in the utilization of government resources. I thank the heads of department, chief financial officers, and all provincial government officials in the role that they play in managing their budgets prudently, as well as assisting to put this budget together. I'd like to thank my family for their unwavering support, as well as HOD Mahlatsi and his dedicated team for the sterling work undertaken in putting together this budget. Indeed, your work ethic and dedication is truly appreciated. Well-researched, well-referenced budget. My heartfelt and gratitude goes to the people of this province. Free State community, you've given us an opportunity and honor, and the members of Executive Council to implement government policies and priorities aimed at improving the well-being of our communities within the province. Honourable Speaker, I hereby table the 2021 adjustment budget together with the associated adjustment appropriation bill. I thank you kindly.
What does the Honourable MEC propose?
Honourable Speaker, that the bill be referred to the Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts and Finance, as well as the Budget and Oversight Committee for consideration and report back.
Any discussion?
None. None. No.
Any objection, honourable members?
None. None.
The bill stands. Okay. The bill stands referred to the Portfolio Committee on Public Accounts and Finance, as well as the Budget and Oversight Committee for consideration and report back. Honourable members, that brings us to the end of the business of the House today. The House shall adjourn till the 8th December. But honourable members, let me remind you that as per the correspondence that was sent to all honourable members, alluding to the request by the Office of the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture to address the members immediately after the sitting, we have agreed that at 12 o'clock that address is going to take place. So we request honorable members not to leave the meeting, or rather make sure that you connect back at 12 o'clock or stay connected till 12 o'clock so that we can allow the minister the opportunity to address the members of the legislature in the Free State. Thank you, honorable members. This house is adjourned.
Viva Khadija, viva! Ala.
Kamala Makhosikazi.
Wena usuntshiye dintho tsa mo o so balehile.
Hello. Bueno, pasamos esto. Bueno, okay. Upuo di mpi hakka. Upuo di mpi nso ya hantle. Wale suke lockdown le tsa teng. Oh, Fidel. Ne ke tlile mara ke potlaketse go tla connected to the budget new speech.
Honourable members, good day.
Good day, Speaker.
Good day, Speaker.
Minister, the platform to address us. Can we continue?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
continue.
Honorable Speaker.
We are here.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and greetings to you. Greetings to the Premier of Free State, Mayor Sindombela, the Honorable MEC, Dimakatso Mahasa, of Sport, Arts and Culture, all other MECs here present, honorable members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I extend my warmest greetings to all of you present on this important gathering on this body, the august body, the Provincial Legislature of Free State. Honorable members who are meeting today, the 27th, 2 days after Cabinet, the National Executive of the country decided that this week from the 25th to the 29th would be the week where we honor in mourning those who perished because of the two pandemics we're faced with in our country. One is a global pandemic, which is coronavirus, and the other is gender-based violence and femicide. And we are dipping our banners, as you know, that the president decided to that the flags of our country should be flown at half-mast for the next 5 days. We continue, honorable members, to urge all of us to observe health protocols, ensure that we continuously wash our hands or sanitize them. We keep necessary physical distancing amongst each other, and we wear masks so that we protect ourselves and protect those around us. And in that way, honorable members, will be able to minimize the infections. As you have observed that Eastern Cape, currently in Western Cape, we see this resurgence, and this can happen anywhere else. It's not yet Uhuru. There's no vaccine at the moment. So let us ensure that we are doing all what we could to protect our nation. Now, let me turn back, honorable members, to the issue at hand, the transformation of our heritage landscape. Now, as we journey back to the advent of our democracy and its evolution in the last 26 years, we can reflect on how the heritage sector has transformed and evolved, and also reflect on challenges along the way with the aim of revisiting our approach and strategy. As many would say, hindsight is the best science and the best teacher at that, but life has to believe going on. In this presentation, I will flag the transformation of the heritage landscape with the aim of critically reflecting the strides which we have made since our democracy, as well as gaps that remain, and even more important, the steps being taken to complete the unfinished business of heritage transformation, which have to be finished. In a complex environment of our democratic transition, and within the context of contending forces, those fighting for transformation and those who seek to preserve their cultural dominance, it is easy to take a simplistic view of saying this project of transformation has been a total failure, as populists would want us to believe, or a total success. And yet, reality is sobering in its complexity and nuances, as the picture that emerges is a mixed bag, one of successes and shortcomings, of efforts to change and resistance to change, thus producing the dynamic situation that we are all confronted with today. More recent, the anti-racism protest and campaign-themed Black Lives Matter across the world have reignited the debate about the symbols that dominate and define our public spaces, as well as place names and dominant hegemonic cultures that have defined our societies and reinforced dominant narratives that directly or indirectly sustain and oil the wheels of racism and colonial legacies. Back in the early 1990s, the governing party, the African National Congress, crafted a blueprint for its transformative program, a document titled Ready to Govern, which influenced many policies and programs, especially in the initial years of our democratic transition. More important for this particular context is the fact that this document clearly pronounced on heritage transformation issues as observed in this way, and I quote the document: "The monopoly over symbols and names should give way to a diverse range representative of our whole population. Arts and culture are not the property of any one political party or group. Consequently, the ANC believes that the state-funded cultural institutions should be non-sectarian," close quote. So these ideas, honorable members, contained in the Ready to Govern document made their way to and find expression in various sections of the interim constitution of 1993 and the 1996 constitution as adopted. It was this policy position that informed the 1996 Arts and Culture White Paper. Later, there were a number of policies and pieces of legislation, such as the South African National Geographical Names Council Act of 1998 and the National Heritage Resources Act of 1999. Now, I'm mentioning these pieces of legislation, honorable members, to illustrate a point that insofar as the process of transforming our heritage landscape, there is a legislative framework. It therefore means that since the 90s, we've been able to transform the heritage landscape. We still can do that within the legislation we have, We can't have an excuse that we cannot transform our heritage landscape when in fact we do have enabling legislation. A range of initiatives emerged from the aforementioned policies, and these are: 1, the renaming of major national landmarks such as street names, international airports and cities. I know for a fact that your province, Honorable Speaker, has as one of the such major landmark, which is the international airport there as Bram Fisher, just as an example. 2, declaration of several previously marginalized heritage and liberation sites as national heritage sites, with some elevated to World Heritage sites, such as the Robben Island. 3, some iconic heritage sites worth billions of rands have also been added to our heritage landscape. These include, though not limited to, the Steve Biko Center in Ginsberg in the Eastern Cape, the Liliesleaf in Rivonia, Gauteng, the Nelson Mandela Museum in Umtata, Eastern Cape, the Ngome Museum and Luthuli Museums in KZN, the Freedom Park in Tshwane. The list is long, honorable members. These add to other natural heritage sites developed across the country, with some elevated to World Heritage status. With all of the above achievements, particularly, the South African formerly oppressed majority is still a cultural minority, as apartheid and colonial symbols and heritage still dominate our landscape, hence periodic protest agitating for more and rapid changes. Some of the name changes have been successfully challenged in courts due to procedural flaws, a reminder that any action in a revolution will be countered by reaction. One such example I want to make to honorable members here is a place in Limpopo called Louis Trichardt, where the community there wanted to change it to King Makado, but they couldn't do that because of the procedural flaws. So what it means is that what is contained in the spirit and letter of our legislative framework has to be followed through. Also important to note that as a constitutional democracy, we have had to embark on an extensive, slow and costly nationwide multi-stakeholder consultations, something that is painstakingly slow for my own liking, honorable members, but has to be followed to avoid court challenges. On the issue of statutes, we have engaged services of experts, consulted stakeholders, and conducted international studies on best practices to ensure sustainable solution of what we do with some of these colonial and apartheid symbols, whilst also balancing this with need to have reminders of what our past had been like. In every revolution, military coups, or where popular insurrection has led to change of regimes, the sudden toppling of statues and symbols of the outset regime or system is the hallmark of these transitions. Here, honorable members, going around the world, I can, as a way of an anecdote, make an example of the former Soviet Union, that when the new rulers took over, they toppled all the statues there, they changed the names. Lenin, for instance, his statue was toppled, Marx, they were defaced and so on. And after that, they were thrown into what was known as Museum of Shame. But the contrast to that is that immediately there was a groundswell of people's around the world who wanted to go to Russia and visit these statues. The authorities then were forced to do a facelift of these statues and put them properly now in a place where people come and view them. And I can tell you, honorable members, that the museum is contributing so much to the Russian tourism coffers as we speak. So for us, that was one lesson we've learned out of this process, where we've been going around the continent and around the world to look at the best practices. Now, that kind of an experience in Russia and elsewhere, however, is not the same case with a constitutional democracy that was born out of a negotiated settlement between the contending parties like ours. It is for this reason that we may have experienced a slow pace of change, and this is compounded by the initial phase of our transition, which may not have prioritized arts, culture, and heritage with resources to achieve some of these goals on a grand scale. This process will be a careful and complex balancing act with sustainable results that assist social cohesion and nation building that we must embark upon. In such instances, we have to answer the critical questions, honorable members. One, do we topple and destroy all statues deemed offensive by the fact that they represent colonialism and apartheid? Or do we reduce their prominence and still preserve them for lessons of history? Two, do we create a concentration camp of unwanted statues as it happened in Russia and LAIS with a narrative? Or do we leave it to those who still value them to preserve, thus running a risk of reigniting the old right-wing nationalism by privatizing what is public property? Because I must say, honorable members, that as a minister responsible for heritage, all the statues around belong to us. They are state property, whether they are for people who may not be wanted currently, but they belong to the state. Three, do we allow for juxtaposition of these statues, as it is the case in other areas like the Voortrekker Monument and the Freedom Park? With the Voortrekker Monument, for instance, honorable members, and Freedom Park, they are adjacent to each other. And they are also a symbol of reconciliation, because we have a road there, which we call Reconciliation Road, which link the two centers. We have the same in KwaZulu-Natal, the bridge which connects Ingome Museum and the old Blood River Boer Museum. Also, when you go to Union buildings today, you will see prominently the statue of President Nelson Mandela. But what you don't see immediately is the bust of President Barry Herzog. It is still there, but deliberately, it's not occupying a prominent space. What we need to ask ourselves, honorable members, what could be more sustainable for nation building and stand the test of time, even if future regimes change? What best cases around the world can we refer ourselves to? And again, I'm drawing your attention, honorable members, to Rwanda. Rwanda, which experienced a gruesome genocide that saw around 1 million people exterminated and millions more displaced in a war that ensued. They managed to preserve remnants of that war, including the scars, to preserve the history, and yet they are moving forward towards nation building with those as reminders of lessons of history not to be repeated. As time passes, new debates are coming up and new interpretations of historical events are coming to the fore. So history itself is not static, as all of us know, as historian E.H. Carr observed thus. What is history? In what seemed to be a rhetorical questions, which he himself, respond to, is that it is continuous process of interpretation, of interaction between the historian and his fact, an unending dialogue between the present and the past. That's Ika. Whereas Nietzsche says the facts of history are nothing. Interpretation is everything. This applies not just in a scholarly examination of history and all what it means, but it is part of politics and people's perceptions of history, which often undergo subtle and visible changes all the time. The challenge of public policymakers like ourselves, honorable members, is to strike a balance in transforming the landscape of our country by making sure that future generations will never doubt our well-intentioned program and bona fides. This is easier pronounced, as you know, than practice. In an argumentative and robust democracy as ours, we still have previous contenders holding to their positions. Nation building in a post-apartheid era is about making sure that transformation is effected, whilst at the same time, national unity is achieved. And these two, at face value, look contradictory, but they are not. They complement each other. You've got to transform. You've got to ensure that you transform and use that transformation process to bring together the nation. Consistent with this objective and best practices from around the world, Cabinet took a decision that all those monuments and symbols that are an anathema to the founding principles of our Constitution and democracy in the letter and spirit will be relocated. I want members to note that relocated, repositioned, not removed from prominent public space to what will be known as regional cultural nation building parks. So when you remove something, you remove it to throw it somewhere. We've taken a conscious decision that those statues which represent the proponents of colonialism and apartheid, we are not going to make the mistake which they made in Russia at the fall of the Soviet Union. We are not going to confine them in the dustbin of history, nor are we going to take them to the museum, but we will in each province have regional cultural nation building parks. These parks will be foregrounded by the theme, lest we forget. And these parks, honorable members, will tell the truth through a narrative of who these individuals were and what they stood for. A few years ago, I set up a ministerial task team to look into at the matter of the heritage landscape in a holistic manner and make recommendations. And this was born out of consultation with almost all the members or all the parties represented in our parliament. And they did make recommendations, and their recommendations were clustered in 4 clusters. The first of those clusters is the cluster on public education, awareness, and mobilization. Our interaction today, honorable members, underlined that aspect. It recommended the importance of intensifying popularization campaign of key national symbols in schools for greater civic awareness and education and national consciousness. It also, in line with the cabinet decision taken a few years ago, reiterated that for us to really transform our society and to know each other better and achieve reconciliation in this country, we should make history compulsory at schools. And on that, the process has already started. What we're looking at is the actual curriculum, the content of this history, that it should be the true history about what happened in South Africa over a period of time. The second cluster, honorable members, is the cluster on legislative efficacies. What this cluster recommends that legislation which is perceived to be impeding the implementation of transformation and recommendations should be reviewed and amended. In other words, this particular cluster took into cognizance the fact that the 2 pieces of legislation, the one on the geographical names change, the other on Heritage Resources Agency of 98 and 99 respectively, were passed long time ago. There are things perhaps we need to look into and strengthen. The third of these clusters, honorable members, is the cluster on institutional capacity. Now, recent events that have demonstrated impatience with the colonial and apartheid iconography showed that although there are systems in place to apply for name change or relocation of any statue or monument, the capacity in relevant institutions was only ready to deal with limited requests within a limited period of time. So this time around, honorable members, there is going to be massive change which will involve everybody in the country. So therefore, we need to look at the provincial structures like provincial heritage authorities to strengthen them and to ensure that they are well capacitated to deal with the challenges. The fourth of these clusters, honorable members, was the cluster on the fate, the future of heritage landscape, particularly the public spaces. This cluster recommended an audit of offensive statues, names, symbols, and monuments to be conducted, and likewise advised the department to develop a framework which will provide guidance on the relocation of statues or monuments that are inimical to the Constitution and the founding values of the new democratic South Africa. Now, on these ones, honorable members, this is where the regional cultural nation building parks come from. That already I have instructed the agency, the South African Heritage Resources Agency, which is our agency as the department, to ensure that we employ young unemployed people across the country, 260 of them, who will be working with the experienced heritage practitioners to go around and make these audits. I know that some of the provinces have on their own made some of these audit of the symbols and statues around their province, but we'll do this so that we are able to map the way forward for the parks. The question that honorable members will then ask is why we still have colonial and apartheid statues in our public spaces. Honorable members will appreciate the fact that the national and provincial governments are not custodians of most of these statues. Most of them are under the custodianship of municipal authorities. For a statue to be considered for relocation, a public consultative process should be undertaken at a local level. And when that happens, honorable members, records of such should be kept. An application needs to be lodged with a Provincial Heritage Resources Authority who will consider the application and take a decision on granting the permit after the required public consultative process. If the statue is on the property declared a National Heritage Site, the Provincial Heritage Authority will submit the application to the South African Heritage Resources Authority, who will consider the application and take a decision on granting the permit or not granting the permit after the required public consultative process. So, the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture is not in a position to engage in the relocation of colonial and apartheid statues, as the Minister is the executive authority for the South African Heritage Resources Agency, who will take the decision on the application for the relocation of a statue or symbol. And remember, honorable members, the South African Heritage Resources Agency is appointed by the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture. In an appeal, if an appeal arises against the decision taken by South African Heritage Resources Agency on the application for the relocation of a statue or a symbol, the Minister is the appeals authority who will appoint a tribunal to consider such an appeal and make recommendation back to the Minister. We can therefore only make the point in the House, honorable members, that all of us as honorable members need to engage and raise the matter with municipalities that discussions on statues, street names, and other symbols that celebrate colonial figures be discussed as a matter of urgency. Honorable members, let us be the champions of the heritage landscape that we wish to bequeath to our children and grandchildren to live in. The time is now, honorable members, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable
Thank you,
MEC.
Honorable.
Honorable Minister. Honorable members, that was the presentation by Honorable Minister Mteto. I don't know if there are any comments or questions. If we can provide that opportunity before we allow the Minister to leave. I don't see any hands. Honorable Minister, let me thank you on behalf of the Free State Legislature that you took this opportunity to address us on this very important matter.
Unmute. Speaker, unmute.
Oh, I was checking the hands. Okay, Honorable MEC Kabatu may continue.
Okay. Thank you very much, Speaker. I don't necessarily have a question for the Minister, but a request that the work that has started is a very good work, I think highly appreciated. of our museums and our heritage sites. The only thing that I want to plead is that the minister should work together with the department that deals with economic development, so that through those heritage sites and museums and all other places of importance, they should also be places where SMMEs and co-ops can be able to establish themselves. I'm saying this, Minister, because we are having the statue of Ubaba, Tata Nelson Mandela, at the Naval Hill here in Bloemfontein. But if you could go there and see, it's a statue that is standing there that is not made in a manner that can make a small business to establish itself around it. Not even, friendly to photographers if people want to take photos there at the statue. So we should look also at such things. Two, accessibility of the sites for a majority of the masses, your ordinary masses, is something that should be looked into. It is not easy to access Naval Hill by your ordinary masses who are from your rank and file. So I'm just pleading that such things be looked into. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Any other comment or input?
Yes, Speaker.
Yes, Honorable MEC Mashinini.
Yeah, now let me also welcome Honorable Minister. Just one quick one. On the issue of the tourism and using the statue that we are having as a country, I think as a country we have not been doing well with regard to ensuring that we have tour guides that are able to popularize our statue in the country, not only of our heroes and heroines, but of course the place which can attract more tourists into our country. We have now moved to level 1, and I think the borders and the airport are now opened. People would want to come to the country, but we have to increase our way of marketing our country. And I think it will go a long way in addressing unemployment in the country. I am thinking of a place like in Kwakwa, where we do have a number of heritage sites, which basically find that they are only left to the municipality to see to finish. I'm raising that point to say the department can do more if some sort of allocation can be made to ensure that all these areas where we have heritage sites, at least there are tour guides that can be able to help us to ensure that the country and the province is popularized. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable MEC. Is there any other hand, Honorable members? Okay, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thanks to Honorable MECs who have made this valuable contribution on this conversation. It's an ongoing conversation, Honorable members, which as demonstrated by MECs here, that it needs a lot of partnership amongst us and across government portfolios. I can't agree more with MEC Kabate on the issue of accessibility of these symbols. That is why we thought that we needed to engage and plead with the government at all spheres, provincial and local government, because in the final analysis, it is at that level where the identification of the site, of the place of the site, for instance, the issue of the regional nation building, cultural nation building parks would be finalized at the level of the regions and provinces. So we are being sensitized here that as we do that, we must think of the portfolio of economic affairs, that it should make sense to that portfolio, that the generation of revenue in the region, in the province, is guaranteed. I note the Madiba statue as the honorable member, as the honorable MEC has alluded to. I would really recommend honorable members that if we can work very close with our municipalities and ourselves as the province, because as I said, that in the final analysis, the parks we are talking about, the regional cultural nation building parks, would really be incumbent on us as provinces and regions or districts to look into. MEC Mashinini has raised the issue. In fact, this matter is related to the first point, that if we can popularize our symbols, Honorable Mashinini, I can't agree more with you. If you go to around the world, to other countries where such heritage symbols are, you hardly find a space. It's always fully booked. You have people coming from all over the world. We have here in this country, for instance, we have had a monument, the Voortrekker monument, for about 70 years now. And this is one of the monuments which is frequented by tourists around the world. And upon closer examination of this, there are things which we picked up. One of those is what MEC Mashinini is alluding to. There are clear support in marketing and communicating what kind of products they have there. And I've been told recently that you would see many people flocking there, especially from Asia, particularly East Asia. And I'm told that one of the languages they are using in trying to attract tourists is Mandarin. So what it means is that marketing strategies will have to be developed, because these centers can also become centers which contribute so much in the economy or in the revenue of our provinces, as it were. I will pass this, especially the matter of tour guides, I will pass this to my colleague and Minister for Tourism, Minister Kubai Ngubane, that it's an issue which came out of this conversation we're having with you, honorable members. But Honorable Speaker, thank you very much for the honor and privilege of allowing us to come and address the provincial legislature. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and indeed, I thank you that you came and make this presentation to the Free State Legislature, reminded us the importance of heritage for nation building and social cohesion. I think you've given us so much to go back and digest and think about, so that we can be able to say, how do we contribute positively, how do we move forward and in ensuring that indeed we uphold our heritage proudly so, and use it to indeed build nation building and ensure social cohesion. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you, honorable members. I think we've come to the end of our meeting. I thank you.
Thank you. Moro Babu Mtetwa.
The Shinis. Hey,
Kunjani Babu Mtetwa.
hey, man. Who is Freestad?
Yeah, Hak Freestad.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Minister. Bye-bye, everyone.
I thank you. We are done. You are so quiet. Both of you, it's like, even for